Let's have some fun with this one. Let's ban a card from every faction. You know, for fun. So I've had some people comment a couple of different places, both on videos and elsewhere, like on JNet and what have you, and they want me to be negative. And I don't know why. While I understand the intent, because we're all card gamers, and card gamers are whiny by nature, you get why that's weird, right? Like, I'm here to have fun. If I'm not having fun, I go do something else. That said, obviously, I play the game. I do have opinions on card balance, more specifically a few cards that I think warrant close attention over the next few months. And since we're going to see a ban list in about a week, I figured, hey, why not do a little thought experiment? Then the people who want their blood pressure to go up will be happy, and I get to have a good time doing it. So I'm going to gripe, but I'm going to be fair about it. One card per faction, even if they don't deserve it. Everyone's getting hit. Consider this as much a faction hype reel as it is me complaining about cards being strong. A lot of these are sick. I really like some of these a lot. But again, I want to be fair. We're going to hit everybody equally. Maybe not quite equally. I'm skipping neutrals for both sides because nobody needs to hear me complain about Sure Gamble. Like, you don't need to hear me be like, hear me out. Runners don't need 12 additional dollars in their deck. Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. You don't need to run Sure Gamble, but you need a damn good reason to not. I'm not going to dwell on this. Also, if I were doing a neutral corp card, it would be False Lead, and that's not that interesting to talk about either. Plus, I love that card. I have not discussed my choices with anyone from NSG, and I have no inside intel. I am just some guy. Please don't take this too seriously. I'm just funnin'. Alright. So for HB, we're gonna do Wage Workers. I feel really bad kicking HB while they're down, so let's just get this one out of the way. A fourth click that costs 4 to trash is obnoxious, and there are very few factions that get more value out of that bonus click than purple. It's honestly really silly some of the plays that this lets you get away with. Whether you're triple advancing and then quad advancing something in a never advanced deck that can run this, or if you're just doing poetry installs, or it doesn't really matter. The fact of the matter is a 4-click corp is always bonkers, and Wage Workers is one of the best ways to do that. Nano Management's more versatile and it doesn't have a trash cost, but it's expensive and it doesn't demand runner response, where Wage Workers does. Now granted, the threat of this thing goes down a lot if they have an Azamat or a Gourmand or something of that nature, but regardless, it's expensive enough that it still usually ends up hitting, unless it's a Gourmand, and it demands the runner go deal with that, and if it's behind a piece of ice, in, say, a sideways HB setup, suddenly it's just completely obnoxious. I don't necessarily think HB deserves to lose anything at this point, but Wage Workers out of faction for a whole 2 inf is pretty ridiculous, so if anything, I'm hurting the others more. I'm trying to be fair. Alright, Jinteki, let's get rid of Bladderwort, yeah? Because the play patterns Bladderwort enables are just kind of vile. Being broke should never be a win con. I think Netrunner is as much an economic game as anything else, and Bladderwort actively incentivizing you to run low to the ground all the time is just not fun. I don't think the best egg decks are actually all in on Wart. They're really not. Like, the best ones we're seeing are either Hollow Man setups or, like, Regenesis things that are rezzing significant ice and doing, making money plays. Things that matter. They're letting Cohort pop every turn. They have money. Bladderwort doesn't get to do the thing in that case. But the biggest NPE lists are absolutely on 3x of this card, as they should be. At this point, Bladderwort just exists to filter fun runner decks that aren't optimized, and players that haven't played against the card enough. It catches people out, but it doesn't do anything interesting. There's not like a cool Bladderwort combo. It's just obnoxious. I love kill decks, but I'm ideologically opposed to uninteractive sources of damage that aren't like neural EMP levels of awkward and narrow. Bladderwort pinging people for doing nothing is just kind of a fucked up thing to do. I don't like it. It doesn't sit right with me. Will I play the card? Yeah, absolutely I will. But I get getting rid of it. Also, I didn't call this out, but 3 to trash is a lot for a card that does as much as Bladderwort does, and the fact that it's credit neutral on res is just kind of silly. I think Jinteki could afford to lose this, and I don't think it would make anyone who isn't actively playing this kind of egg upset. I think you'd be fine. Alright, NBN, its next big thing. You remember how Back Pro enabled one of the more obnoxious kill combos last rotation? We're here again. It's worse, but we're here again. Only this time it's yellow, so it's arguably not worse, even though it takes a click now. I've had several games where I feed an NBT to the runner turn 1 just for tempo, and I have yet to be punished for it. Every time I've done this, it has put me so far ahead that it is a, like, Rashida-level event. I am able to just go. I'm able to haul ass with minimal issue. Not to mention, in a lot of cases, being at threat immediately for Oppo is just a benefit. I have had games end in just a couple turns where it is get moneyed up, drop an NBT in archives or something, feed it to the runner, oppo them immediately, they're not set up because they were trying to play a little bit of interactive game early, die. It's just dumb. NBT is pure gas no matter how it's used. Even if it doesn't do that, it draws 4 and filters, or you rip a giant yodel. You never lose. Like, it's so good. This text is cuckoo banana cakes. I've been critical of NSG's NBN design for a while, and agendas are a notable weak point because they just can't seem to figure out how to manage a yellow 3-pointer. I don't know, like, I'm not an expert, I'm not really a designer, not anymore anyway. I don't know how to solve this in the current card pool. I don't necessarily think NBT was it. This card just feels silly. I love playing it, I hate playing against it, and that's just, yeah, I think this thing's a little cracked. It's not maybe as feel bad as Bologna because it just benefits the corp instead of hurting the runner. But, like, which would you pick? I don't know. I feel like I'd probably... If money wasn't such a problem right now, I'd say Bologna is more reasonable. Anyway. Weyland should just lose Ob. The whole boat, not the cards in the deck. Just the entire ID needs to go. If you want to talk about cards that restrict design space, there's nothing worse for the concept of trash effects than Ob. Ob existing means that entire mechanic just needs to be, like, constantly handled like it's made of glass. Ob ladders work in such a way, also, that anything that's costed 0 or 1 always has to be evaluated for boat compliance. And if it seems busted in Ob, you can't print it. And that sucks, because I think that cheap assets and upgrades and ice and everything are a really fun area to work in, and Ob single-boatedly removes your ability to design really great cheap cards. The ones that exist are basically all in play in Ob. Your Bladderworts, your Powers That Bees, your Spin Doctors, your Maviruses, like, all of this is already there, and it's easy to ladder into with your 2s, and it's just not reasonable. Like, you can't print cheap cards hardly at all anymore. The only things preventing Ob from being the winningest corp right now, and it's damn close already, are level of effort, because Ob is tricky to play, and squishy R&D. It doesn't even need new cards to end up being the best corp in Standard. I absolutely think that as people get better at playing against Egg, Ob is going to eat the market share, basically, that Egg gives up. I don't think we're there yet. I don't know if we're gonna get there, because Egg is a lot easier to play than Ob, but I absolutely stand on Ob being the best corp ID in the meta right now. Kill or fast, it doesn't even matter. Also, just, like, on a general level, playing Azure against Ob and Paper sucks ass. No ID should be shuffling and searching every single turn. Sometimes more than once. Not because the text works more than once, but because if, hey, they have any other shuffle effects or anything, that is yet another thing that they have to do. I'm not saying that they didn't test Ob and Paper. I'm saying that Ob and Paper is awful. It's just annoying. It makes in-person tournaments worse for it being there, and I genuinely think that that contributes more than not at all to the fact that it is not the winningest corp, by merit of just like, I don't want to deal with Ob ladders today, being a thing in the big events. That's it. I think that this ID is only going to go up, and that's a little scary. Alright, let's do runners. Anarch, we're getting rid of Bankhar. Bankhar. It's Bankhar. We really need to stop attempting Faust. Breaking ice with cards is probably never going to be fair, especially in the faction that benefits from trashing. This has never worked. It's never going to work. I sincerely at this point think that trashing cards as an alternate for things that involve ice is just a bad idea, and we need to stop. We need to put a moratorium on this whole scene. It's really fucked up to invalidate the outer piece of ice in any server every turn forever. Just forever. Bankhar doesn't have a central restriction. Bankhar doesn't have a set piece of ice restriction a la Boomerang or anything. Bankhar just gets to say, this ice doesn't matter. Next turn, that ice doesn't matter. Next turn, the other ice doesn't matter. It's this forever. It's dumb. There is a reason Why every single Anarch deck is running 3 copies of Bankhar without fail. Every good Anarch deck right now is on 3 Bankhar, and in some cases they are totally load-bearing. This dude is everywhere, and he will continue to be everywhere until we do something about it. I feel pretty bad for Ryo, who is brand new, catching such a big stray, because that ID was very clearly designed around mulliganing for Bankhar. But if it takes Hosh and Essa down a peg without ruining the rest of their kits, then it has to be done. Also, of all the cards on this list, if you couldn't tell, this is the one I mean the most. I sincerely believe that Bankhar is bad for the game. I don't like what it does to the early game. I hate how much of playing against any Anarch ID is just, did they mulligan into Bankhar? Because it completely changes whether or not Ice does anything. That feels bad. Also, playing it out of faction's basically impossible, so it's just an obnoxious Anarch thing that only Anarchs can do, and I don't like it. I don't like what it does to Netrunner in general, at least not until you get a chance to really set up, which, depending on their hits, you may not never get to do. Anyway, my criminal card is twinning. What do you mean this card isn't blue? Yes, it is. I did a fun experiment. I searched the term reg on Netrunner DP. For the unfamiliar, reg decks are usually just like, it runs, it multi-accesses, and it touches cards with breakers. Like, that's all it does. I limited it to 7th rotation, and 100% of the results were Crim or Hosh with twinning. Mostly Crim. Almost the term reg has become twinning. That is what it is. There is no other multi-access card that compares to twinning, and that is no more obvious anywhere than criminal. Anarch has stuff. Crim leans on twinning so hard, it's ridiculous. Twinning isn't just the best multi-access in the game, it's the only multi-access that rewards you with additional accesses for doing exactly what you already wanted to do, which is save money with Chesva. You could argue that means that Chesva is the card that needs to go, but I would argue that Chesva's actually totally fine. I think its restrictions are fair, I think it's an interesting card. What's not okay is that it just powers twinning forever. Every other form of permanent multi-access in the game right now either caps at 1, like Dockland's Devadatta or Pretty, or requires significant work to use. Wake requires you to hit multiple servers and it hurts you on the way in. Cataloger is Cataloger. Conduit requires a bunch of runs to get anywhere and it dies to purges. And they only function on the one central. Twinning has both, and it's all upside. The only rough part of twinning is installing it for 3. That's it. Twinning is so overtuned, it's ridiculous. There's no other win con in the entirety of the card pool right now that represents a more permanent or effective threat than twinning, and even Hosh doesn't use it as well as Crim. Like, the fact of the matter is, Reg Hosh is really, really good, don't misunderstand me, but Reg Crim with Sable and whatever else is pretty arguably just better, and twinning is the least fun way to do multi-access. Like, you could be playing Manuel Ozaya, right? You could be playing Wake stuff that messes around with HQ a lot, like with Baz. You could be doing all of these different things. You could be doing funky stuff in Az, or what have you, but you're not going to do any, or Mercury, but Mercury's barely a criminal. But you're not going to do any of that. You're just going to play twinning, because twinning is the most criminal orange card to ever orange criminal in this rotation. I know it's weird to pick this. I understand that. But I wanted to pick the thing that would kind of like ding criminal the most, and it's absolutely twinning. Like, there are Anarch decks that would function without it. I know that it's all over the place over there too, but you could get there. They have options. They have Finality, they have Manuel, they have stuff they could do. Crim, frankly, would lose the most by this, and it's not even close. Also, Shaper can't use it, so it doesn't hurt them. Speaking of Shaper, yeah, I'm not being very original with this one. Deep Dive's not the fairest card around, but it's a quest effect and those are hardly free. If anything, I'm kind of going to defend Deep Dive here, because I don't think Deep Dive deserves to be banned. There are counterplays for it. The biggest problems with Deep Dive aren't the access or the number of cards seen. It's that the game enables a game plan that engenders passivity or non-interactivity, and rewards it with a double steal. It's kind of silly. Whether you hit relatively early to mid-game, and you barely had to get through Ice to do it because you hit after or during a scoring window and they opted not to res, or couldn't afford to, or you hit in the late and you just swipe 5 points, Deep Dive fosters some pretty nasty play patterns. Things that aren't necessarily good for the game. Deep Dive's potential power, combined with its unevenly distributed risk factors, like Corp's not knowing if any given central run is actually part of a Deep Dive play because you could choose to make it one part way, make it a menace. It absolutely is. That said, I think Deep Dive's an incredibly fun menace, and its with potential gives it memorable emotional highs and lows that don't have me wishing it was gone even when I die to it. I know I said let's ban one from everything, and I stand by Deep Dive being the pick for Shaper. I think that if you're going to ban out a Shaper card, this is the one. But I don't necessarily want it gone. I just wish that it fostered interactivity a little bit more, or maybe just that, like, the click steal second thing wasn't there. Also, in exchange, we should just ban this and then give Shapers back Trick Shot. I am a balance genius. While we're at it, let's ban Hosh too. Thanks so much for watching. This was a fun one. I might do more of this shorter stuff in the future. See ya.